So welcome everybody to a new day. We want to continue with our series now on wiring up things that will be important to us during the state contest. And what you see here right now is that we're going to wire up an additional light for our project here. The other stacks will come with more lights. Right now our machine has the green and the red light to be able to work. Plus we've added the horn, which has a flashing red light to it. So we have a number of options. But today what we want to do is add another color. The contest for the Nationals says that during the operation of the conveyor belt that we have another color light that's flashing only when the conveyor belt is operational. So the process today is I got an Allen Bradley light that I got from our first robotics team, and it will work real well for us. So today what we want to do is take some time with you and do the process of wiring this up. Now the process that we're going to use is we're going to use the 12-volt supply, which is on the table, which is just a little bit out of the reach of the camera. And once I get going on that, I'll move the camera down a little bit. But the light will be mounted in the control box, and then we're going to wire it to the main control box on our system, because we want to be able to have a little bit more control with the robot to be able to turn it on and off rather than running it through a contact in the logo. So either way, we've got to get a signal from the main control box on the robot, and we might as well just run it directly from this into here. So one of the first things I did is I drilled a hole in the top of the box. I got this out of, I got this drill, so you can see this massive Milwaukee drill, and it was a 7/8 bit, and it really was really easy to poke a hole in this plastic. And then with the light in itself, the collar on the inside holds it tight. Now there was a little knob here on the end that keeps it from spinning, but I had to take a little file and to file that off. But to mount it in the box, it's just simple. Put it in, set it down, and then when we turn it over, we're going to take this little collar and then just spin it down and then lock it in. Just give it a little twist. You don't really need to have a wrench or and it's only plastic, so it's not that big of a deal. So there it is, it's locked down, and the wires then will be connected through this little connector. So we have three positions on the wiring that we'll use, and we'll wire this up first. Although remember though that we got to pull the wires up into the box first, then we'll put the connector on, and then we can go ahead and just all it is just a plug-in feature into the bottom. So let's go ahead and get started. And I have the wire track opened up so that we can have access to that. Let me just move the camera down a tad so that you can see the power supply. So the idea being is that we're going to run this orange wire, and we're going to start here at this point. We're going to run it through the channel, our 12 volts. We're going to put it up into the contactor up over here on the control box. When I get that far, I'll move the camera so that you can see how I'm connecting it. Then back into the wire tray, across here into the box, and then we have to come back out of the box with a neutral back onto this other side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut enough wire out. So last time we were together, we showed you how to put these connectors on. I like the two combination of wire strippers. I like this one here to be able to cut the wire, and I like this one then to be able to put the connectors on here, and they're numbered for red, blue, and yellow, and that makes it a lot easy for old timers like me that I don't have to read anything. I can just go by the colors. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a connector on this, and then we'll kind of feed the wire out before I cut it just to make sure I have enough. So remember that when you're stripping these wires, find the number that it goes to, and I went to the number 18 wire on here. I held the connector down. Just show you that again. So this part on the wire strippers cuts it real nice, and then I don't need much, anywhere from a 1/4 inch to 3/8. You push down hard, and then just kind of relax your hand a little bit, and then the covering slides right off with no damage to the wires. Next, we discovered the last time we were together that these smaller ones work best in our connectors. The other ones, which were too fat, don't fit between the outlets on here. So what we'll do then is slide this up into here. We don't want, I always twist them some, and then they have to fit up inside. And then I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of the wire that pops up over the top. Hold your cutters. Now since I'm on the red one, red matches red. Line this up and squeeze it. I always want to squeeze though with the flat side, with the prongs parallel to my jaws of my cutter. And that makes a nice little crimp. And then I can connect this down. Okay, so red, the power supply, the positive is on this side. You can see the black connectors on that side. So the first thing we'll want to do is find a red one that's open or by itself. When you put these in, always think about how this connector goes. It's a lot easier to find it and slide it in this way than it is to try to push it down on the other side. So I found one right down here. You got to make sure though that they got jumpers on them. These last three we didn't put jumpers on. We figured we had enough. So you can either put it to the inside or to the outside. I started putting them to the outside now because this middle is kind of getting pretty busy. So let's put it right here. This one here is the one I started on. All right. Now, I have wire ties to kind of bundle things together. And eventually, now that we're adding some new wires, I'll just clip these off and put 2 new ones on. And then we will be ready to go there. So we're going to want to try to line this and make it fall into the track. You don't have to be too specific right now. Just leave enough wire that will lay in here, get down to the other end, and I'm going to leave enough wire. I know I'm out of the camera range right now, so the amount of wire that I have here is enough to get us down there. So I'm going to put that in first, and then I need to take another amount of wire and feed it back. I'll reposition the camera when we start wiring it up at the controller, but for right now I want to make sure I have enough wire to be able to get back to our light. So we'll wire that light up here in a second. Okay. So the second wire I have is going to go from the control box over on the robot and back over to one of the contactors here. So what I'm going to do then is set this up right now. And the way you do that is to use these little thumb screws here at the top. So you're going to need to find a set of small screwdrivers. We'll open it up and then slide it in here. And then we'll connect one of the connectors to this, and then we feed another one back to the neutral, and then that'll be it. So the first thing I'm going to want to do then is feed this up into one of the holes on here. All right, so we said this one then is going to come back from our controller. The one that we have here is the one going to it. And then now we have to have one that goes from here just back to the neutral to be able to make our circuit. So let me just cut that off a little bit, and I'm going to wire this into the box. This will be our neutral. I guess maybe I'm going to come out another hole. Well, let's keep them together. Now I picked orange because that's one color that I haven't used yet. So it's nice that when we program things that we can look at, that we understand what color wire that we're using. So here's that orange wire. And let's make sure that we have enough. Place in the track, and then come back to here. So now this one needs a connector. So we'll go through the process. Now I pulled out two of them. So again, it's the same thing. I also want to make a video showing you how to solder. So we'll do that this week. We'll make that video. Maybe I'll make that by myself, and just so you can see the process of how to solder wires, because some of the things that we do, we haven't really had to solder anything, but soldering is a much better connection than these mechanical connectors, and it holds much stronger connection. Plus then we want some over that we can put the shrink tubing, and we'll show you how that actually, so I have to make sure I have some heat to be able to do that as well. So all right, so then this is our negative, and let's put it on one of the dark side connectors. And then put it in like that. So now we have power, and we run it back to the ground. One thing though that I want to do before I get too far here is I want to experiment a little bit, because I don't necessarily know. I'd have to get the manual out on these things, but there's it says here LA, there's a neutral, and then there's LB. So I'm guessing that the N stands for neutral, that I can go ahead and put it into the center piece, which is the one that we just wired up. And this is the one coming from, not coming from, this is the one coming from our neutral bar. So let's go ahead and wire that to the N. Again, we have to strip something off. Now we don't have to strip too much, just like we did before. And then Let's get our screwdriver pack. Now, this is a really nice set of screwdrivers for that. They're you can get them at the dollar store. We go through so many of them here. I'll leave a pack out, and all of a sudden, then they disappear. But this is a whole set for $1. They really work nice, especially if you got glasses. I always end up having on my glasses to tighten up these corner pieces. These screws have a tendency to back out, so I can tighten them with those. So they're pretty handy. All right, so let's go ahead and back this and open this one up. And I thought I turned the ringer off on that cell phone. So, do you get these calls all the time that wanna check on your car warranty? That they're gonna tell you that your car warranty is out of date? I'm so sick of those calls. Just drives me nuts. Okay, so it works a little differently. So you want to back it down so that the contactor is all the way to the bottom. And then tighten it back up. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. All right, so there's that. And now, here's our power supply. So let's just check first to see which one of these things is actually going to light the light. So let's put, now be careful because I got everything powered up. Probably not a good idea. I probably should have turned the board off, turned the power. You can see that the green light is still on, and I still got all of these things functioning with the robot. So just be a little careful. Your best bet is to maybe turn the power off completely before you start fooling around with it. That is my recommendation. 12 volts is not going to harm you, but it could short out some of our equipment. So let's try the positive into our LA first, to make sure that we can get the light to light, and then we know we're on the right track. So let's put this in here. Tighten up our connector. And if we did it right, when I plug this into the light, there's only one way it can go in, so you can't make a mistake. Okay, so that's exactly actually what we want it to do. We want it to be blinking. So the situation which they'll tell you on the controller then is to have the light come on while the conveyor belt is running, and at the same time we want that yellow light to be flashing. So that meets our criteria for what we need to do. So let's go ahead and disconnect this, and now I am going to disconnect our power wire because that has to go over to the controller, so we know it's the LA, and then we have one wire coming back from the controller, which is going to be this guy. So let's go ahead, connect both of these at the light, and then I'm going to pause the video while I move the camera to a new position, and then we'll restart. So LA is what we want. Got our blinker. There we go. Let's plug this bugger in. Only goes in one way. let's put the lid down. Boy, that didn't work. These connectors are tiny and cheap. All right, and I probably should just give it a little bit of tug so it can't, if it comes out, then I won't lose it. Retighten them up. All right, so good. So let's bury all this back in the box. Let's get it running the channel. So we have our negative is already connected. We just need to run the 2 positive wires over to the control panel, and that is going to be this one, which is already connected to the 12 volt, going on over to the control panel on the robot. And then we have the second one, which will come to the light, and we'll show you how to connect. So at this point, I'm going to reach over and just put pause on our recording, and I'll reposition the camera, and then I'll start it again. All right, so I'm back. So now what you see is the control wiring that we're going to do for the yellow light. And I have the 2 wires that I brought over from the other panel. And I'm going to lay these in the track a little nicer, but I want to get them connected first, and then I can lay them in the panel. So again, I want to take a minute and strip this wire. Give us a little bit of light as well. So now the set of relays that we have on the robot are listed right here. Here's a series of connectors that we can use, and these are outputs that we can control with our programming. Each one of them, I know it's a little more, it's difficult to see, has a common. So the common is in each one of the centers. So then this one is number 2, this is number 3, and then we have output relay number 4. So they are connected in both the normally open and normally closed ports. So out of the box, we can have current flow from the normally closed to the common. If I do nothing, the electricity will flow through the wire and the light will light. Through the normally open and common, nothing happens until I actually send a control signal to switch it. So that's what we want. So we want a common. So the common is the one that is coming from the power supply directly, and that would be this guy right here. So we are going to take our connector and open that up, and it's the second connector down. Open that up, slide that in and connect it. And as I said before, these are kind of cheap little connectors, so always give it just a bit of a tug so it can't come out. And then the next one then is going to go to the normally open connector, and then this will send us a signal. And the idea being is that we are going to use relay number 1 so that when we start the conveyor belt, when we give the command to start the conveyor belt, we're going to give a command to energize our contactor so that the current then flows from the common to the normally open connector, and then it'll power the light. And then when we want when the conveyor belt stops, it'll turn this connector off as well. So all that remains now is for me to lay the wire in the track, and then you can see I have a bunch of them open. So we'll rewire that in terms of laying it in the track, and then I'll put the covers back on so that we can cover up and make the board nice looking again and have all of this stuff. So at this point, I chose to go up and around this way rather than going down this track and over. I just thought it was a much cleaner operation because we don't have to cross in behind the logo over there. So we're going to go this way, lay it in the track, and then back to our controller. All right, so that's about it. So what we'll do then is next time we're together on the robot itself, I'm going to go ahead then and we'll put the robot in charge, we'll program it, and then at the same time we start the conveyor belt. The metal cube will be on there, and then we'll watch how we trigger the sensor at the end to be able to stop the conveyor belt at the same time turn the light off. Okay? Thanks for coming. See you next time.